everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Laid Back Life podcast. We're talking about how to love life, entrepreneurship, and improve daily. I'm your host, Jordan Ostroff, and joining me today, some of the best advice from the first half of this year. You'll hear things like Charley Mann talking about shifting your identity for lasting change and better habits. Dan Pink going deep on how to find true purpose and choosing the daily torture you're willing to enjoy for success. Allison Williams will talk to us about getting over the ego hero complex and firing yourself from those low-level tasks. Gordon Firemark is going to talk about how to redefine real success, avoid regrets, and prioritize fun. Robert Hanna is going to tell us why we is greater than me and how to grow your firm through strategic collaborations, and much more advice as we go through the best life advice we've received so far this year. As a reminder, over the next several weeks, you'll start seeing this podcast be a little bit more focused on getting out of being a lawyer and into being more of a law firm owner as part of my transition into Atticus. The added benefit of getting a lot more help from some amazing people that will help us make this podcast even better. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the wonderful best of tips from the beginning of this year, onward and upward to even better things.
One of the hardest things, like we talk about, how do you implement, but you're only going to continue implementing as far as your identity takes you. And if you right now, I have a couple of guys I work with who have a hard time seeing themselves as people who get it done. They start the work, but they have a hard time finishing the work. So every bit of accountability that we have is prove to yourself you are someone who gets it done, and add things to your environment that shows you that you get it done. Look for the moments in your life where you actually do get things done. I don't care if it's you followed through on cooking the meal you told your spouse that you were going to cook for the family on Wednesday night. That's great. That is you getting it done. You have all the proof that you need. You're just struggling with a past representation of yourself you believe is the current existence of you. That identity is that's our multiplier on how we get things done. We get stuck, right? I mean, we've all had those moments where we kind of go, oh man, but I am the guy who sits down and eats 8 slices of pizza on a Saturday night when pizza gets ordered. Cause that's my vibe, right? I'm that guy who eats the pizza. And so I do my one cheat meal that kills everything for the week instead of going, I'm a guy who actually is fit. Like that's kind of who I am. And I'm actually a person who has control, and I eat 2 or 3 slices of pizza. And I even know that in 20 minutes after eating the 2 slices, I will feel weirdly satiated, even though I feel very hungry for the next 10 minutes. I know that's who I am, and that's okay. And getting comfortable with identity, it takes time. It takes practice reps. I mean, you know that, Jordan. Like it's not, you don't put on different clothes tomorrow and say, I'm a victorious marathoner. Like, nope. Turns out you slog it out.
So is that the next step, though? The identity change?
I think so, yeah. If we have, there's one of my favorite psychological equations is called the Beckert-Harris change equation. I love this so much. So
Didn't know we were getting into psychology here. Let's do it. I'm in. You piqued my interest.
It will fit very neatly with like the vision, and then here's how we're going to get it done. So the Beckert-Harris change equation. On one side of the equation, you have the variable R. That stands for resistance. On the other side of the equation, we have dissatisfaction, which stands D, vision, V, and first steps, F. Now, here's the thing about this equation. The way that it plays out mathematically is D times V times F is greater than R. So dissatisfaction multiplied by your vision multiplied by your first steps is greater than R. We have to overcome resistance. Now, all our basic algebra or basic mathematics says if any of those 3 variables are a 0, the whole equation next to R zeroes out. So we can never be greater than the resistance, which means if you don't have a vision, well, you're not actually going to overcome resistance. You can have all the first steps in the world. You can hate your current situation, but if you don't actually know where you're going, we're not going to get there. If you hate where you're going and you imagine yourself as I'm going to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you don't have a set of first steps that you're actually implementing, guess what? We've zeroed out. We're never overcoming resistance. Same thing, interestingly, with dissatisfaction. There are a lot of people who have a vision. oh, I want to be this. I want to run the marathon. I've even got a training plan to run the marathon. But then they kind of go, but I don't really care. Like I'm kind of happy right now. So why am I going to do any of this? Great. Resistance wins. Resistance wins. You got to have all three of those happening. You and I, when we go to conferences or we talk to people online, even interact in like Facebook comments, we see a lot of people who have, say, a great deal of dissatisfaction. We often see people who are alternatively like that tactical expert. Oh, I've got the three things you're supposed to do. We also see people who are like, this is the big place where I'm going. But it's not as common to find all of those put together. And that is where I believe people like you and I come in, Jordan, where we find those pieces that exist within a person. It's like, well, okay, I'm sorry you're dissatisfied with where you're at. I'm really excited about where you want to go. Let's frame this up. And now we actually need to get it done. We need to implement on all of this. And then every now and then we encounter that interesting person who's got all the first steps in the world, right? They're that uber tactician. They've listened to every single audio training that they can get their hands on. They've read all the books, but they really don't see themselves, that vision of, well, I actually am going to be that person. As a matter of fact, I am that person right now. You're probably familiar with the filmmaker Kevin Smith.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Clerks, Dogma, a whole bunch of good ends, some weird stuff over the last
4:30
decade
movie.
and a half. Yeah. So Kevin Smith talks about his in his, and he actually shows it in his most recent movie, where his sister at one point was talking to him about being a director. And he's like, yeah, but when I blank, I'll be a director. And she basically just said, no, you're our director. Start making decisions as a director right now. And that got him to make Clerks, which started his entire career. Making Clerks on a shoestring credit card, pulled together a little bit of financing budget, did amazing, amazing things because he saw himself in that moment as, right, I am a director.
But I don't know if it's either Aristotle or it's Will Durant quoting Aristotle, like we are what we repeatedly do.
Yeah.
So like that's it, right? Like that's how we become we are called human beings, but really we are human doings. But I
Yes.
think you need that identity shift. You need that I am this person to make you do those things to be that person rather than doing those things to then convince yourself you're that person.
It's really hard because we are always making a choice for better or for worse. So I had one of my most influential people in my life was my high school theater director, Russ Staggs. Adore that man, changed my life fundamentally. One of the challenges that he would always pose, it's sort of a semantic challenge to our classes, was he would ask the question, can you do nothing on stage? And there are people like, well, I mean, you could just sit there and literally do nothing. He said, but you have an audience. So are you actually doing nothing? Or is it always perceived as a choice?
If Tony Stark had a law firm, he'd automate all of it and spend a ton of time at happy hours and Top Golf. It amazes me how often when I'm working with firm owners one-on-one, we create a firm that is supported by them doing less, a life that helps them do more, and then tie those things together in a way where they have the success they've always dreamed of. If you're ready to delegate like Batman and lead like Captain America, click the link below and let's talk to see how we can work together to help you achieve the law firm you've always dreamed of.
And I saw this when I did a giant survey on regret for my book, The Power of Regret. You had people who regretted taking a chance and have it go south on them, no question about it. But for every one of those, you had 50 people who didn't take a chance and regretted it. So it's a matter of what you want to, it's a matter of what you want to compare. It's a matter of what you want to compare it to. I think that the answer to this is, and it goes back to me, the error, the forecasting error, the analytic error I made going to law school, is the principle of surrogation. Principle of surrogation when we make decisions, which is finding someone to be a surrogate for you. So what I would recommend to anybody who wants to go to law school is I'd say to them, go find 10 people who are practicing law right now and find out everything you can about their lives and what they actually do. Not what they do generally, what they did on Tuesday. Find that out and see if that's something that you want to do. And if it is, go for it. If it's not, think twice. Same thing is true. Find somebody who's in law school right now and find out what it's like. Not what it's going to lead to, not why they did it in the first place, but what it is like being in their shoes right now. And I think that, so if you go back to our friend the baker, my hunch is that a lot of the people who do stuff like that and then regret it, haven't gone and said, what's it really like to be a baker? Holy crap, I have to get up at 4 a.m. to start baking. That's a big pain. Oh my gosh, I'm in this hot room with an oven all the time. Go and find out people who've done it. Surrogation, 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 surrogation. That to me is a way to at least reduce a lot of those kinds of errors that we make.
Yeah, I love that so much. So like I started as a prosecutor and then I opened up my own firm and I interviewed a bunch of defense attorneys about the work and they sent me motions, they sent me forms, all that stuff. I did not ask them a single question about their lives. Come to realize so many of them would like, oh man, I would have gone back to the prosecutor's office if they offered me a job again.
Yeah, I mean, again, there are different there are different ways that we move through the world, and there are different ways that we understand the world. In social psychology, it's known as construal levels. So it's basically you can construe things abstractly and conceptually, or construe them concretely. One is not better than the other. They're just two different lenses on things. If we scrutinize things too concretely, we sometimes miss the big picture. But if we scrutinize things too abstractly, we sometimes miss the lived truth of what it's like Thursday at 3 o'clock. And I think it's important to interrogate both of those. If someone says, someone could say, oh, you know what, I haven't heard this before a gazillion times. I heard this a gazillion times. I really want to write a book. Okay, because what they do is they look at a book like the books I have behind me. It's like, God, that'd be really cool to have all these pages in a cover with my name on it that people buy. That seems awesome. And you know what? That's okay. That's a good part of it. But that's not being a writer. You want to know what being a writer is? Being a writer is come with me to my office and have me grind out 800 words today when I don't feel like it. Then come with me tomorrow while I grind out where I read over the previous 800 words and realize that 400 of them suck. But I still have to write another 800 today. And there are other things that I might want to be doing. And there's no one to talk to. And I have the cursor blinking at me. All right? That's what it is to be a writer. So, you have to surrogate. You have to talk to people who do what they do and say, I think that in some ways any kind, we shouldn't, whether we're practicing law, whether we're doing anything, we shouldn't be looking for a profession that just endlessly delivers us rays of sunshine and candy canes. No profession is like that. The question is, do you do something that has a point? Do you have a modicum of autonomy over what you do? Are you getting better at something that matters? And are you choosing the torture that you want to endure? And the torture that you want to... So at least if you're hustling for business as a proprietor of a small law firm, at least you're choosing the torture. No one's choosing it for you. If you're a writer trying to grind out words every single day for months, if not years, that's the torture. That's the torture that I've chosen for myself.
Spoken like a true lawyer. That's the torture that you've chosen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I always say I always make more money when I fire myself from doing something in the law firm. Like it always gets better. It gets me more time. It gets people employed. It gets more money in the company, and it creates a better business inherently when I am doing less.
So do you have a repeatable way that you fire yourself from tasks? Because I love that way you phrased it. Like that's a really catchy.
Well, so when you say a repeatable way, I mean, I look at my systems for myself every 90 days. So in general, I'm always asking myself at the end of every month, what did I accomplish this month? And how do I feel about what I accomplished this month? So that doesn't mean how much productivity. It doesn't mean how many tasks. It means what did I accomplish in terms of outcomes? So if I look at our annual business plan and I say, okay, we break that into quarters, are we on target or off target to meet our goal? And what role did I play in that? So if I don't like the fact that I perform certain activity, even though we're on target or even ahead of schedule to get where we want to at the end of a quarter, that means I need to be fired. Because one of the things that you have to recognize as an owner, especially as your firm grows, is that your lack of satisfaction doing a task, no matter how good you are at a task, that's one thing that we always love to say, I'm great at it. I'm better at it than anybody else. Then you need to hire better people so that you hire someone who's better at it than you are. But ultimately,
can you just repeat that one more time for me as well as everybody else? That was
yes, fire yourself. The fact that you are the best at something is a problem. If you're thinking about it like, I have to do this because I'm the best, that means you haven't hired the right person yet. You have to think about every job in your company as one that you should be the least qualified person to perform. Because when you get people who are better at you than the activity, you can focus on leading those people. You can focus on making sure that they have all the tools, all the resources, all the structure, all the systems that they need to be successful for you. I'd like to think of myself as the person who is the marionette manager, right? I have all the strings on my hands and all of my dolls are dancing below, right? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I love the people in my team and I love my law firm. But ultimately, I'm the person who ensures that they have what they need to be successful. And I see their success, not just their ability to make money for my company, but they're enjoying the work that they do, feeling fulfilled in their career, less likely to leave the company because they're now going to be feeling, I'm getting what I want out of this. I have a responsibility to ensure that the system affords them that. And that means the system has to expand to the capacity of the talent that I have. And you don't have time and energy or orchestration to be able to do that if you are doing one of the jobs in the company that someone else is better suited to do, or that someone else, if hired correctly into the role, could do better for you. So you should always be thinking about that in terms of your own role. What am I doing? And am I the best person to do this? If you're not the best person to do it, that doesn't mean that you immediately have to do it and begrudgingly do it. It means you have to focus your attention on getting that right person sooner rather than later so that you can get out of it.
Talk to me more about the feeling component, right? Because like it's one thing people get KPIs, you've got this annual plan, you have the monthly plan, but like you're taking this component and really checking your gut. Like walk me through that a little bit more.
So, the easiest way that I like to think about it is every person in the business should have a career trajectory in your law firm, and that includes you. Not every law firm owner wants to be the leader and CEO of the company. And if you don't want to be that, that's fine. But whatever your role is going to be, you need to define it very clearly. Once you define your role, you should always be asking yourself, am I fulfilling my role, exceeding my role, or underperforming in my role? And almost invariably, most law firm owners are underperforming in their role because they are overperforming by doing someone else's role. They're the lawyer who's doing paralegal work. They're the lawyer who's doing legal secretary work. They're the lawyer who's ordering supplies. They're the lawyer who is managing the workflow. They're the lawyer who's building out the legal tech. I can do it better. I can do it faster, right? Because I'm a techie person. Well, you might very well be a techie person, but are you as techie as the person who builds tech software for a living? Probably not, right? You might be financially sophisticated, but are you the person who spends all day, every day figuring out what is the best categorization of expenses that need to go into your software, such as a bookkeeper? Probably not. So when you ask yourself, am I fulfilling, underperforming, or overperforming in the role? Then you can get to the feeling state, which is how do I feel about what I am performing? Because sometimes what happens is you don't quite recognize that you're not fulfilled. You recognize that you're annoyed. Sometimes your job is more cumbersome than others, and you're starting to think, I don't really like this, but everybody has ups and downs. Life is going to throw you some curveballs. Nobody's going to be happy all the time. And we get into the state of that because as lawyers, we are very much used to dealing with the trauma and difficulty in other people's lives, because that's what lawyering often is, right? We're encountering people who have problems. So we're used to that. So we kind of absorb a lot. But when you think about it from the perspective of just, am I doing what the role entails? If you are, and you're not happy, that might mean, and likely does mean, that your role needs to shift into something else. Like, how are you defining what is appropriate for you? What types of things do you like to do? Just doing a personal inventory and asking, do I like to be on stage? Do I like to be having lunches? Do I like to be networking one-to-one? Do I like to be, meeting and organizing digital marketing copy? Do I like to be mentoring lawyers? Do I like to be managing legal activity? Do I like to be in the courtroom? Figure out what is the thing that really lights you up, and then recognize you created a business. You have every right to do what you want to do in your business.
Collaboration is domination. That's how I define it, in the sense of a lot of you people historically thought reaching out to people that may even be competitors or people that may be taking market share as not a good strategic move. I've actually taken the view that collaboration is one of the best ways to grow strategically, particularly within legal. So I always use the analogy of we is greater than me. And I've done this right from the start. As you know, Jordan, you've been on my show before in the past. I've been on your show before in the past. This is another example of a prime collaboration. Why are we doing this? Well, it's quite simple, right? We want audience sharing. I'm going to share this with my community, which I've been building up since 2018, building goodwill, building human capital, relationship capital. Hopefully, I give value to your audience today. I'm going to share your show with my community. You're going to acquire some audience, some trust, some reputational capital off the back of it. I'm going to acquire some new audience from you. It's a win-win collaboration coming from good spirits of just trying to help each other out in and around the legal community. But you'll know I have a legal recruiting business here in the UK. And when I first started, I needed a way to get exponential growth and to cut through. And collaboration was 100% the right way to do that. As you know, I launched the Legally Speaking podcast way back when, one of the early days to do that. And I was strategic in terms of the guests that I brought on. So the first major collaboration I did, and this was way back when podcasting's, some people are even, what is a podcast in sort of 2018 and, late 2017. I reached out to the top legal societies, one being the London Young Lawyers Group, which is a trusted network of about 7,000 lawyers in the UK, principally in London, but all across the UK. And I invited the chair and vice chair of that organization onto my podcast. At the time, it was a good experience. You'd invite them in, give them tea, give them coffee. It was all very exciting, podcasting, new and interesting. And what I wanted to do is obviously make sure I gave them a really good high quality interview and experience and shine a light on them. But what am I doing through that collaboration? They are going to be very motivated, if we do a good job, to share this with that 7,000 audience in their newsletters, in their social media campaigns, in their promotions for events through using the clips, the audios, the web forms, all of that good stuff. So right from the start, I saw the importance of collaborating with trusted networks, particularly within legal, for growth. And from there, it's snowballed. We've done huge collaborations with Society of Asian Lawyers over here in the UK. We've just recently done a collaboration with the National Law Review in the US, where we're doing sort of shares on YouTube, and we're getting our featured show on there, and other shows are doing it, and I encourage folks to do that. So yeah, modern collaboration is the smartest, most trusted way, I believe, to grow, get audience, get attention, and actually achieve what you're looking to try and do in terms of maybe getting more customers, more people coming to your door.
It's fascinating because you started it by saying domination, but you don't mean it from the standpoint of domination in the collaboration. It's the opportunity for so many of us that talk to the same person to dominate their experience.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it has to be authentic, right? I think that's the key is, right, if you're approaching collaborations through just trying to completely dominate to your point, then I don't think that's going to be a long-term collaboration. And so it'd probably be a short-term one, and that's a risk. So a lot of the collaborations we've done, the example I gave of the London Young Lawyers Group, we went on from there to do live events at the Supreme Court, the highest court over here in the UK, to be one of the first to put on. We did boat shows, we did in the summer. And so if you do it from a win-win and how can we add value and exchange and collaborate genuinely, then so many other things grow off the back of that. So yeah, if you're coming at it in terms of just wanting to reach out to someone just to immediately get their audience and truly transact, I don't think that's necessarily going to be a meaningful long-term collaboration, and it could potentially be more detrimental than what you're hoping for in the first place. So genuinely think of strategic partners where you can collaborate, where you can add value, and you see it as a long-term partnership.
So I want to talk about that in a second, but before we go deeper on that, should everybody be thinking about collaboration from their perspective, or are there certain types of people where collaboration is more important?
I think we should all be thinking of an element of collaboration at every aspect of it, whether you run your own business as a law firm owner, whether you're a lawyer and have your own career. Who can you be collaborating with? Could you be creating a mini, I do a lot in the legal careers space, right? Helping people move careers. Of course, I'm most known on the legal media side, podcasting side, etc. But if you're a corporate associate or corporate attorney and you're looking to become partner, could you maybe be collaborating with 2 or 3 other people in the corporate space, setting up a once a month, virtual Zoom get together to share ideas, maybe careers tips or information with one another? And equally, if you're a law firm partner, could you be doing something similar with other law firm partners that, you could be sharing ideas, helping one another, lifting people up, whatever it might be. So I think everyone should have an angle of collaboration if you're looking to grow, if you're looking to go further, if you're looking to achieve success, because it's very, very hard to do these things alone. And actually, what I've found, what's kept me motivated to run a lot of the initiatives I've been running for many, many years, it keeps you excited, it keeps it fun, it keeps it interesting, and actually you have an element of collaboration as well, that if you've come to the table, you don't want to let the other party down, so you actually bring out the best in yourself too.
But ultimately, I think another important factor is, how do you feel about it? Do you feel good? Are you feeling fulfilled with what you're doing? And it's culture in the law firm environments, culture in American style business, that profit is really the ultimate yardstick, or how much money have I got in the bank is the yardstick. But it's possible to be successful and still have a fairly thin profit margin, or successful and have a well-known, recognized brand for excellence, even though it's not a tremendously profitable thing. And I think that personal satisfaction is another worthy measurement of success. Am I home every night to be with my kids for dinner? Am I able to see them off for school in the morning, or do they have an absentee dad because I'm at the law firm all the time? That's as important, if not more, than the bank account balance.
Well, and that's like, so somebody posted this thing. He goes, there are 2 kinds of people in the world: those who have not yet realized you can order cake for no reason, and those who have. And I think about that from the standpoint of like, instead of the cake, it's like we make our own scorecard for so much in life. We get to decide what matters. And so why are we living by somebody else's scorecard? Why are we waiting to a birthday to order cake? Let's make, what you said, let's be home, let's be there for our kids. But I would say track it, certainly prioritize it. That becomes the key thing, is following your scorecard.
But I think, and looking at what's important to me, and just finding a way to measure that is really what ultimately comes down to it. But and that starts with just making a list of values. Does what I'm doing serve my values?
The other thing I think, especially when you are being more vulnerable and authentic, is the conversations you have with people end up being weirdly more accurate. Like, there are people in my life that I don't talk to that often, but I'll run into them randomly and they will be like, "Oh my God, your kid the other day when you posted how he said blah, 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 I'm still laughing about it." And like, it'll be a post from 2 weeks ago, but I remember exactly what they're talking about. And I'm just like, oh, this is working. Like, people are reading this. I am staying top of mind with these people, even if it's not
Because when you were
necessarily a
talking
case.
about your kid, it lit you up a little bit. And there's that attractiveness we were talking about again. That's what people remember.
I love that. That's true. Well, my kid,
unless you were talking about something horrible, but
well, I mean, he lights me up, whether it's on fire or in a positive way, or 2 different things, right? All right. So for anybody who's been listening to this for the last, 50 or so minutes, and they want to follow you, they want to hear more of your great insight and wisdom, they want to check out your firm, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Well, you can always reach out to me by email, and my email address is gfiremark@firemark.com. Firemark.com is the law firm website, but gordonfiremark.com is other things that I do, some courses and stuff like that. And on social media, gfiremark, you'll find me.
Awesome.
Follow my YouTube channel too.
Yes, you should. Everybody, definitely do it. Okay, so if somebody listens and they take away nothing but what you're going to say now, what's your biggest piece of wisdom, the most important advice you'd like to give to as many business owners as possible? It could be something we've talked about today. It could be totally different.
I think the most important thing to do in life is have a good time, have fun. If you're having fun, everything else will follow. And set yourself up so that fun is a part of the daily practice, daily experience.
You know who Bronnie Ware is?
I don't.
So Bronnie Ware wrote a book, I think it's called Confessions of the Dying. She was a hospice nurse and talks about like what people say they regret.
Yeah.
And number one for men was spending too much time in the office, flat out. I think it was number two overall. Number one overall was not living a life true to myself. And so like I can't imagine many people in that situation being like, oh, I had too much fun. I spent too much time with people I love.
Yeah.
Really, like I don't see that being a regret for anybody. So why we tend to put those things off, I don't know.
Well, I think for a lot of people, we get into the work mode, the habit of work, and it subsumes what we used to do that was fun, what we enjoy, and we lose track of who we really are in that, at least that aspect of who we are. And so it takes us back to doing these exercises, figuring out what do you feel passionate about, what lights you up, what do you enjoy doing that you would do even if you weren't making money from it, and find ways to incorporate those into life.
Well, it's fascinating you mention it that way because like I think so many lawyers get that egotistical asshole,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fake, sometimes it's true. But so many of my clients, I think, are the opposite. They are so selfless that they have truly lost their sense of self. And it's like, hey, we're going to be a little bit more selfish so that you get that back. And then that's how you find the things that light you up, and that's how you get happier with these things, and that's how you stay in the game longer and show up and have that spark.
Absolutely.
I love it. Thanks for joining us for our best life advice from the first half of 2026. We'll see you back here next week for Tina Hughes' episode. In the meantime, you don't have to do everything that you've learned today, but you do have to take some action. Nothing will change if you don't change. So identify the one or two things from here that were the most beneficial advice, start implementing those, and then build from there. All right, see you back here next week. Have a great day.